Hmong people coming to Minnesota.
So a lot of them were either partners with CIA.
That's exactly.
With,
Yep. So during the Secret War in Vietnam, Hmong. So this is where like this idea of race, culture, and ethnicity kind of get interwoven. So Hmong is a cultural group, but it's not a race. So what that means for Hmong people is that, let's say, and I'm butchering this, but this is just a principle, right? So let's say this is China. This is who's north of north and east of China? No, north and west of China. Mongolia. And then, we have the border pieces of, and whatever. So the Hmong people come from China, they come from Laos, they come from all over the place, because there are people who their existence did not fall within the borders of countries. So you can have Hmong people from the same family that come from so-called different countries, because their cultural group were in all of these countries without regards of the borders of those countries. So during the Secret War, a number of those folks fought in Vietnam or were allies with the United States. And so as a promise to them, we said that we will take in your people, particularly because they were also facing persecution because they didn't follow along these borders, and these governments were saying, well, you're in our borders, you have to act like us or follow our laws and so forth and so on. Hmong culture is very also interesting because they didn't have a written language until more recently. And I can't remember if more recently means the 70s or even later than that, like the 90s or so. But how did Hmong people? So if you don't have a written history and you have a rich history, how do you share that history? What's that?
Oral storytelling.
Oral storytelling. How else? Okay, so festivals among New Year, but how do you transfer knowledge from one group to the next? What's that? Art, right? So for the Hmong, they have these great tapestries that actually tell stories about the lineages, and so you'll see people with those tapestries. I also think it's interesting. So I did a presentation with and for a Native community, and they gave me something called a star blanket. And I don't know if you know about a star blanket, but it's an honor. It's an honor to receive a star blanket. And so for years, as a matter of fact, it's still, because I don't know. I don't want to. So it was given to me by natives, so I feel good in receiving it. I'm not sure how to use it, right? So I'm not sure if I put it on my bed or should I hang it up as a tapestry. So I have it nicely folded in a closet until I get a clear answer of how I'm supposed to use this. But that's a huge honor, right? Another thing that so cultures learn to adapt to their context, and so like for African Americans, song is really important, and music is really important. And do you guys ever remember hearing? I don't know if you did in your high schools or not. They do Negro spirituals. Anyone ever heard the Negro spirituals? Or, Old Man River, that old man. It's some kind of classic kinds of songs. Which was written by a Jew, huh? Okay, I didn't. Yeah, so that's from Porgy and Bess, isn't it? No? Showboat. Okay. So, but this idea of these classic Negro spirituals uh, and songs. Well, the interesting thing about that was the songs were the songs, but the songs were more than the songs. Right? Um, Again, Africans were brought to America, stripped of everything, and had to create new stuff. And so they would sing these songs, and it was funny. People would say, "Oh, those Negroes are so happy singing those songs." No, they're singing the song, but they're warning everybody else who's hearing the song about what's going on. They would sing the song to give news, to share information, but other folks, oh, they're just so happy and singing, when that was a way to give information. So that was interesting. Now, it was interesting because I was going to talk about this idea of refugees and immigrants. And do you know the difference between a refugee and an immigrant?
I think one is forced and one is
Yeah, right. So refugees are forced by a number of what we call push factors, right? So they're pushed out of their countries. And once they're pushed out of their countries, they join something called the diaspora, the scattering of their people, right? So refugees typically are pushed. And what might push a group of refugees out of their country? War, persecution. And usually persecution is either a religious persecution or an ethnic persecution, right? Sometimes famine can also push people out of their country. And immigrants are typically pulled to. So what kinds of things would draw people from their countries to another country? Land, economic advancement. What's that? Jobs, security, better life, blah, 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 blah. Right. Family, right? We also talk about this idea of so-called illegal immigrants. And this idea of undocumented immigrants, right? So illegal is really loaded with a lot of stuff. I think undocumented is probably less loaded language to say kind of the same kind of thing. But so yeah, refugees and immigrants are different. And so if I'm a refugee and I've been pushed out of my country, are there some ways as a therapist I'm going to have to deal with this person different than I would someone who's an immigrant? Yeah. Right? So there's some life stuff here. There may be some challenges for immigrants that may be similar to the refugees in terms of adapting to a new culture and that kind of stuff. But the process of the rationale may be different. Yes.
I feel like it can get really gray, right? Whereas, some countries maybe they're not necessarily being pushed, but they feel pulled because of what's going on in their country. So it's not like a life or death situation, but I don't know. I think they can kind of tie together, right?
Yeah, I can say what I would suggest is that they can be related, but it's important to make the distinction, because if you don't, then sometimes you may just misdiagnose something. So the distinction is important, although it does oftentimes feel gray, because it's funny. A first-generation refugee has a child in the country. The child then is considered an immigrant, when in fact the basis of why even that child is in the country is because of a refugee status, right? So the young man just got convicted of wanting to join ISIS and that kind of stuff. Apparently, they have enough information to convict those people. And I think I joked last time about pre-crime. This is one of those situations where you kind of go, huh, okay, pre-crime. Right? We convict somebody before they do a heinous thing, which is interesting. It's interesting. Okay. But yeah, so they just got convicted, and I think there's two parts to their conviction. One is yeah, I can't speak. Let me. I don't want to say what it is because I heard it on NPR. I was driving past. I mean, I was just driving, so I heard it, but I didn't. I don't want to say what the particulars are, but they're pretty heinous. Um, I think life in prison is one of the things that's on the table, kind of thing.
Or possibly joining.
Yes, for possibly joining, making plans to join ISIS. In their defense, what they said was that we were going to join our friends who were in ISIS, which may be cutting hairs, but from a kid's, I mean, not a kid, I mean, they were 20, you know, they're 20, right? But they may be cutting hairs, but it's important to note that, you know, what are we going to say?
My understanding is that we're not serious. We're just saying we are because a friend has said we are. When it actually comes to, you know, it's like, how are we doing?
Right, and you know, it's so because it didn't happen, you can say whatever you want to say, right? I mean, I'm gonna save my butt to do whatever, but I do think that it's interesting that that we know that groups of kids do stuff, not necessarily because they think it's a good idea, but because that's what the group is doing. This is a pretty heinous thing, and the fallout for them personally is going to be pretty profound. Um, and in the Somali community, particularly in the metropolitan area, is going to be significant because there's already suspicion in the community. And so I'm on a planning committee for a conference, and one of the conference presenters is someone from the Somali community who's been very active. And we got letters and a lot of documentation saying you shouldn't have this person speak because they are a spy for the CIA and the FBI. And they gave tons of this kind of stuff. And the basic premise for saying that was that these folks, this particular presenter runs an organization that got funding from the government and funding from a private foundation. So they, you know, connected these dots to say that this person's a spy. So, what do we know about a divided community? Yeah, it can't go forward. We spend a lot of time poking fingers at each other, and we're not able to unify to solve problems. So,
It's a challenging group to unite because we have many Somali students in Venezuela, many, and they're great kids, and it's such a struggle for their families because their families are very traditional. And we have this group of girls that come to school every year or every day with a hijab on. They go in the bathroom, take their hijab off, anytime they get called to the office, they're running back to the bathroom and put it back on in case their parents coming to pick them up because they don't, and they're, you know, it's like, as a school, we're like, well, should we tell that they're doing this to their parents or do we not tell? Like, that's not really our role. And, you know, there's many, but their parents would want to know, like, they'll call and ask, is my daughter wearing a hijab all day? Like, well, that's really interesting. Like, we wouldn't, it's many things, and there's such a disconnect oftentimes with our Somali students and our African American students.
There's a lot of animosity there, oftentimes challenges. I also think it's interesting that we have the Sunni Muslims and we have the Shia Muslims, and now I think in American consciousness we've started to understand some of those differences, but we've lumped all of these we've lumped all of these people together in one big category and said, get along when they never got along where they came from. So they certainly, may not do that. I think it's interesting that my wife is a Assiniboine from Montana, and they put the government put the Assiniboine with the Grovant nation, and these are nations that don't get along. They never got along, and then they put them on the same reservation. And what do you think happened when you put two enemies on the same reservation, right? So I think that's interesting as well. And then what, particularly in your part of town, is very interesting that we have this mix of Hmong, Native, and African American and working class white people trying to live in the same kind of spot. And I think it poses some very interesting issues and concerns. One of the things I think is, again, and I want to thank you guys for leading me back into my notes and stuff. And so most of these are notes that I took from reading your reflections. And I just want to mention a couple of things and a couple of concepts that kept reoccurring as a part of that. So I want you to understand that culture is a system, just like any other system. So family systems, governmental systems, all of those things are organized in a particular kind of way. So for the sake of this particular class and the focus, we're really focusing on culture, race as a part of culture, and looking at ethnicities. So I am not suggesting that culture and looking at race and ethnicity are the only things that we should look at as therapists, but I'm going to stay on brand in this class. So that's what we're talking about, right? So culture is a system. And what are systems designed to do? Create order to organize. To what end? To create order to do what? Keep people divided. Well, I'm just talking about systems in general.
Yeah. Systems are good. We need systems.
Yeah, we need systems. But what are systems designed to do? To bring efficiency to what?
To a society.
To society. Production of what? Systems are designed to replicate themselves, right? A company designs a system to create a thing in order to create profits for what? The shareholders, who then will do what with that money? Probably reinvest it back into the thing, right? So systems are designed to keep things going, so things get replicated, right? So when we see culture as a system, it's designed to replicate what people thought were the successes for that group of people, right? We did the sun versus ice theory, right? Have we done that yet? No? Oh, this is wonderful. All right. So what do systems do? They replicate themselves. That's what they do, right? So when we talk about this idea of culture, what people have said is, I see how the world is. When I do this particular thing, I get some success. Let me try to replicate that success. And ultimately, when we talk about human systems, what are we trying to replicate? We're trying to keep the species going, right? As human beings, we're trying to keep the species going. We're trying to keep our genes going. That's why certain groups find certain kinds of things attractive to, for this idea of, particularly if if you believe in kind of Darwinian ways of thinking, right? So we're attracted to certain kinds of things because they replicate what we think will be helpful or useful. That's where this idea of memes comes in, right? Does anyone know what a meme is? And I'm not talking about the little Facebook thing, right? So in biology, what's the smallest unit in biology? A cell. In physics, the smallest unit is a quark. Right? So in physics, the smallest unit is a quark. In biology, the smallest unit is a cell. In the study of human thought and philosophy, the smallest unit is a meme. So this is the smallest unit of human thought. Some memes survive and some memes die, right? So you have some really good ideas and then you have ideas that suck. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the sucky ideas still survive? Why is that? Because we love them. Why do we love them? Because we're comfortable with them. They survive because we see benefit in them, even though it's a sucky idea, right? You know, so memes are the basis of thoughts. Thoughts create beliefs, belief systems, and ultimately beliefs feed into this idea of behavior, right? So a meme might be, if I want humanity to survive, then killing people is probably not a good thing, right? That's not going to perpetuate our genes. So I'm going to come up with a system of thoughts that supports that meme, right? That way of thinking. So in Islam, they have the 5 pillars of Islam. In Judeo-Christian beliefs, they have the 10 commandments, right? And what? Oh, yeah, you saw the movie too, huh? It was called History of the World, right? He came down with 15 commandments, dropped 1 tablet, and now he got 10. So memes create these thoughts. These thoughts create the basis of a belief system, right? So that's important. So when we talk about this idea of culture as a system, culture is to replicate a number of these things, both biological and kind of these philosophical things that we've decided about the world. This is where religion, really comes from, this idea that I see the world a particular kind of way, and so I'm going to act in that world according to what I see and what I believe. So that leads us to, let's see if I can, don't forget yourself, well, just lose it. So it leads me to this idea of this conversation about the ice versus the sun theory. So the Earth rotates on an axis, right? And there's the North Pole and the South Pole. And so where does the sun shine the brightest on the planet Earth? The equator, right? So the equator. And what's the atmosphere like at the equator? It's hot, right? Some folks might even refer to it as being tropical, right? What's the growing season like in these equatorial regions? It's year-round, very long, right? So the sun shines bright there. There's long growing seasons. So how do you think people have adapted to at least those two things? Because there's a lot more that happens in the equator, but we'll just use those two. What have been people's adaptations to those two things? Okay, I thought so. Okay, so I did talk about this. Okay, good. So then I can cut it, right? So yeah, so this idea that the sun shines on the equator, so the people are browner, and they also believe that time is a little more relative, right? Where in the north and in the south, time is what? It's pretty crucial. It's pretty important, right? Because growing seasons are short. The atmosphere is hostile. So, given those things, people have developed cultures around that context, around what that means, right? So there's that. So let me check that off my list. Along with this idea that culture is a system, I wanted to just point out, and there are tons of ways in which there are other intersections, but these are some of the intersectionality pieces that we have to take into account. In the book, it talks about them being in the three levels, right? Do you guys remember what that is? What kind of diagram did they use to demonstrate the three parts, or the three kind of intersectionalities? Kind of diagram they use. Yes, how many? 3 circles, right? Do you guys remember the 3-circle diagram? No? Okay, so I'll bring it back up. But this idea that there are all of these levels of intersectionality, and so this idea of race and gender and skills and nationality and economic class and social capital and language. So there's all of these different kinds of things happening at the same time. So I don't want you to think that just because we're talking about cultural commonalities and cultural differences, that those are the only things that impact folks, because they're not. And all of this, all these intersectionalities are contextual, right? So in the United States, there's a difference between being, Hispanic and non-Hispanic. Well, if I go to Spain, they don't have those same requirements, right? So as a matter of fact, when I go to Spain, I'm not Hispanic. If I'm Hispanic in the United States, is my example, right? There's a different kind of differentiation that gets made because of what? Because of the context, and more importantly, because of the system. Spain and the United States are both governments, right? So a lot of that stuff is driven by governments, and then people create stuff to fit into those contexts. Fish. What's the toughest thing to teach a fish? It's an old joke kind of thing. To see water, yeah, right? Why? I mean, it's a joke. It's a bad joke. But why is it that it's? Even for us to the concept of the fact that there is air, right? We can't see it. We can't, most often we can't smell it. Sometimes, depending on where you live, you can smell it. But it's there, but we can't see it, right? And why is that? Because it's everywhere. It is pervasive, right? And so a lot of the concepts that we were, and I'm addressing some of the things that came up in people's reflections. That ideas of racism and oppression, we don't start seeing them until we become kind of scientists to be able to find out and see those things. They become our blind spots because they're so pervasive. It's so funny. On my website, I have a philosophy, and my philosophy is, so somebody said, well, do you have passwords on the stuff on your website? I was like, no, I don't. Because I have lots of information and notes and presentations and all sorts of stuff on my website. Well, my philosophy is that if I put enough stuff out there, people won't look. Right? You put enough stuff out there, people don't look. And so so all those things are very pervasive. Yeah, and this was a question that came up. So let me make sure that does systemic racism cause people to display racism, or vice versa, chicken or the egg kind of thing, right? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
I don't think we can do that.
Okay.
And then going back to what you said, those people, it kind of started in the movie and instances to compare, be the superior.
Try to be the superior compare. What? Yeah. Which would say, then how does that apply to this if you're using a Judeo-Christian kind of? Okay. Because actually the Judeo-Christian would say that the chicken came first. The Darwinian would say that the egg came first. What's that? No, the chicken being the creation,
Yeah.
and this being the process of being created. So to use that, is racism a natural state for human beings? Okay, so you don't see children doing it, young children. You think selfishness is a natural state? Self-preservation is a natural state. I only have one more. So I'm trying to triage stuff. So this is very crude. So forgive me. Right. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? So let's talk about the two big parts of the brain, right? The two major actors in the brain. There's the big part with the gray matter and the little roads. What's that called? Okay. Or more specifically, just the two.
Prefrontal cortex?
Yes, the prefrontal cortex. Okay, so this does relate to this question. I just want to make sure, right? So we have the prefrontal cortex, and then what do we call this? The amygdala. All right. We can also refer to that as the reptilian brain. So when we say reptilian brain, what are we saying that we're lizards, we're dinosaur people? No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying there is that this is the most primitive part of our brain, right? So this is the prefrontal cortex is where logic, where thought, where decisions, all that stuff gets made, right? And the reptilian brain, what happens there? Reaction, survival, right? I need to differentiate between danger and safety, right? So what's that? Fight, flight, or flee. Okay, so I'm going to dispel that myth too, right? So so a lot of times in conflict, we say that there are three ways in which people react to conflict, right? And what are those? What have we said about those? What are those three ways? Fight, flight, or freeze, right? I want to suggest to you that that's not totally true, right? People respond to conflict with one motivation: survival, which is to flee. Even in the animal kingdom, when they get into conflict, the idea for particularly the people who the person who's being aggressed upon, their number one objective is to flee. Fighting may be a strategy, but it is just a strategy to flee, right? So porcupines walk around the forest. Oh, I'm going to attack somebody. Let me hit over my quills. No, when they're in conflict, they shoot those quills out to get away, right? Possums, what do? They play dead to what? To get away, right? So particularly when an aggressor is engaging in conflict, that's what we're trying to get away. Anybody who just picks a fight for conflict's sake, there's something wrong with them. They're unnatural. They're unnatural, right? Which is why we like to pick on world dictators who have started fights and tried to eliminate other people, because there's something wrong with them. They're unnatural. That's not how we operate. So does systemic racism cause racist or racism, or is race a part of our natural thing? What I would suggest is that biologically, we operate off of some of those instincts, those things that our genes say, this will help replicate either my biology or my ideology. So we get attracted to those things, which also means we differentiate ourselves from those things. Why are all the black kids sitting at the lunch tables together? The same reason all the white kids are. So I would suggest that it is natural for us to separate ourselves according to our primal brain. It's natural for me to have to use the bathroom. That's natural. But if I use the bathroom right here, right now, what would you say about me? There's something wrong with me, right? She said, "You're nasty. What? You're incontinent." Yeah, right? Because my instincts say, go to the bathroom. And you can go to the bathroom right here. That's what my instincts say. If we can say humans have instinct, right? But what do I have in place of just that? Yeah, my prefrontal cortex. So my prefrontal cortex says it is inappropriate to use the bathroom right here. Think of a way to maybe joke so then you can leave, take a break in 5 minutes. So I come up with all of these things from my prefrontal cortex that to override this. When your prefrontal cortex is not overriding your reptilian brain, that's where we get this idea of negative tribalism, and I think that's where the root of racism starts to happen. Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you get that. But so if you're in a state of constant conflict and you want to flee and you can't, then
Negative anxiety, reverb. You ever been to a hall or a concert or something like that, and the microphone is too close to the speaker, and it shrieks or, and they kept doing that, right? Yeah, right. So what happens is, if you're in a constant state of conflict and you want to flee, which is our natural way of being, and you can't flee, that's where people get anxiety attacks. Because your instincts say, danger. And when we were in the plains, we were in the wild, before buildings and cities and that kind of stuff, and we heard a lion's roar or a bear growling, what did our ancestors say? I mean, what was going through their mind? Run for your life. And what happens when you're preparing to run for your life? Well, one of the things you need is adrenaline. What does adrenaline do? It supercharges your whole system, right? So your heart rate quickens. And why does your heart rate need to quicken? To push more oxygen through your blood. So if the heart rate is up and I'm pushing more oxygen through my blood, what's happening to the things that contain the oxygen? They're inflating. So my lungs inflate, my heart rate increases, my lungs inflate, but there's something that stops my lungs from overinflating. What is that called? My ribs, right? So all of a sudden, my heart rate is increasing, my lungs are filling up with air, and then I get a tightness in my chest because my ribs will only go so far. What else happens when you're heightenedly aware? I don't know if you have a dog or a cat, but when they're about to either be attacked or attack, the hair on the back of their neck stands up. Same thing happens for human beings. Your hair starts to stand up. You get perspiration. You get goosebumps. Anyone ever heard of goosebumps, right? You get goosebumps. All this preparation to, I'm getting away from this bear. I'm getting away from that danger. I'm getting away from this lion. But what happens when the bear or the lion is 494? Because in the plains, in the savannah, when we could get that running done, what happened once we ran away from the danger? What happened to our system? We go back to normal. As a matter of fact, we crash and then we come back up to normal, right? But when the danger is psychological or physiological, but not really life-threatening, we have those same things that happen. And so for an example, and I don't know why, I don't know where this came from, but I'm working on it on myself. There's 2 times, so I like going to the state fair, but there's some parts of the state fair and some times of the state fair that cause me some distress, right? So I love going early in the morning, right? Not that crowded, get your food in, get your breakfast, get your egg drop coffee, so like doing that stuff. The carnival ride stuff in the late afternoon, towards the evening, I can't do it. It's too many people. It's unpredictable. I'm like, okay, we gotta go, right? Sometimes driving in traffic when it's really, really thick and people aren't being nice, and I haven't had a milkshake. Because I get a milkshake to kind of calm myself while I'm driving through traffic. It's just it's a tool, right? But I get all that anxiety, right? And it feels like I'm physically in danger, but I know that I'm not, right? And so that's where that negative anxiety kind of comes from and causes this other stuff. So let's go back to this idea. So So what I might suggest is that, and we'll watch a couple of films that I think will support this, is that this idea of the reptilian brain is one of those kind of defaults for us. So being with my tribe is a default. Being with my blah, blah, blah. However, when I start using my prefrontal cortex and I start thinking about logic and thoughtful, this is what drives me towards my goals. This is what drives me towards my biology. This drives me towards my biology, and this drives me towards my goal. And sometimes those things are not congruent. They don't go together, right?
And you said the one was to the goals and one was to the what?
Yeah, so prefrontal cortex can lead us to our goals, and our reptilian brain will lead us to our biology. Because when babies are born, they know how to suckle, right? They know how to blink, there are certain things that babies just know how to do. And that's because of this part of the brain. And then we teach and learn everything else in this kind of prefrontal cortex.
I have a quick question. Would this illustration be appropriate to draw through the client like on a whiteboard?
Yeah, yeah,
For, education purposes?
yeah, yeah. What's that?
Oh, I've been in therapy and they've done it for me. That was super helpful.
Yeah, no, yeah, talk about it, right? Because it is real, but it is also something that you can manage and control. And so when I get into my little fits, I say, okay, Andre, you're all right. Let's go pull off and get a milkshake. We'll get back on, get in this, take a side road, so I walk myself through this thing. I thought it was really ingenious. Did anyone ever watch The Sopranos? I love that show. I loved it. It's about mafia family, and the head mobster has anxiety attacks, and he would just like pass out, like he'd be in a big mafia negotiation, going, oh no, oh, blackout, right? It was just it was great. Two juxtaposed kinds of things, right? You don't expect mafia bosses to like be passing out from anxiety, but so those things. So what I would say is that that this notion of racism becomes socialized, but there is something about being with your own people and your own kind that is natural, but it's only good if it's helping you serve your purpose. Right? It's only good. Right? So yeah, so there's that. Another thing that came up. Oh, I wanted to talk about this notion. So I have it's like a bad joke. A Catholic priest, a Buddhist monk, and a Hasidic Jew in a lake. How do they come out? Wet. I said it was a bad joke. I told you I already warned you, right? If that lake is called racism, how do they come out? Wet with racism, right? So one of the things that I want to remind you is that because we are in a system that is founded and uses race as its currency, any interaction you have with that system leaves you affected by it, which then means that you are also racist. I know it's hard. It's hard. But go ahead, Mike.
You had asked us to look up going back spots.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a specific one, but I think it was something and he's talking about during the Revolutionary War, black people and white people would fight alongside was gathering from the discussion was that it was much less existent than it was after the war. Is that accurate? They were talking about a lot of things that I had never heard.
Yeah.
And so there was something that happened after the Revolutionary War that was kind of started all the racism.
Yeah. How many people were able to look up or see the going back piece that I was talking about? Okay, so I'll pull it up and we'll watch some of those pieces. But what you're saying is exactly part of the piece that I was hoping that we would watch. So yeah, no. So what do we know about things that are built by human beings? They're flawed. They're based on the perspective of the storyteller. And what else? What else? Can be destroyed and reformed, right? We can recycle those things that we've made, right? And so this idea that racism hasn't always been the way it is, particularly in the foundation of this country, which also means it doesn't have to always be this way. We can change it, but we have to have the will and the skills in which to do it, so we can change those things. So yeah, so our interaction with a racist system leaves a mark on all of us. Some of those are more dramatic than others. The same could be said for a heteronormative system, right? So we're all affected by that. We think in certain kinds of ways because we've been impacted with that system. Be it around gender equality or sexual orientation or whatever the predominant way of thinking is, we're all impacted by it. Some of us take it on blindly, and some of us are mindful of it, but also recognize the effects of the system. Okay. Yeah, so were we born to do it, race and racism? I handed out an article, Are Babies Born Racist? Does anybody remember that article that I handed out? Yes? Okay. So you should have it if you've been collecting this stuff. I talked a little bit about this idea of tribalism. Tribalism goes back to this idea of your biology and the core part of your brain. This idea of, so when we talk about this, the primal brain, we're looking for similarities and we're looking for differences, and we're trying to see which of those are dangerous and which one of those are helpful, right? We're always trying to make those distinctions. There are two videos that we'll watch, so I'll keep that open. One is called The Baby Lab, where that article, Are Babies Racist, kind of comes from. And then also we'll look at Dr. Clark's doll experiment, and I'll have you make up your mind on how that is, but I'll give you these two things as models to kind of think about. That's all. Oh, yeah. So this is all curriculum stuff that I'll go over. This last piece was also something that was in notes, and it's this idea of So some people like to use this term white privilege. Has anyone ever heard the term white privilege? I don't like using that term for a number of reasons, some of which I won't go into right now. But I also think that sometimes we can use terms so much that they lose meaning, or people don't want to listen to what we're saying. So I don't use white privilege in the things that I talk about, but I do use white strategic advantage. Same thing, right? This idea of white strategic advantage. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. Something that came up in people's papers, this idea of freedom versus liberty. And does anyone know the difference between these two terms? What's the difference between freedom and liberty? Okay, so legal liberty from the government. Okay. Okay. Other folks. Sarah.
I don't know if I'm right, but it would have to be
Okay, say more about that. Okay.
Yeah, it's really, you have the liberty to do things within six separate consequences. There's something different there. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Think about
Process
it.
all yet.
Yeah. Think about it. Think about it. Other folks. Good. Say more about that.
Like, I guess I know the contribution. That's what my feeling is. But I'm not going to where I'm going to live. We were talking a little bit before class
Yeah.
about the gym membership.
Yeah.
Like, we can, if I have a membership to a gym, I can go to the gym and I can do all the things and like people come with me to the gym, like a path. But everything I'm doing at the gym, he can just do on his own. It's kind of like you have a relationship with it.
So this idea of freedom is a position of membership. Who gets freedom in the United States? Citizens. If you're a citizen of the United States, you get certain freedoms. What are those freedoms? Speech. Okay. It's interesting because people like to bring that up, but they don't use it in the right context. Right? So this idea of freedom says that if you are a member of this organization, you have the freedom to do what we tell you you're able to do. Because I don't have free speech. If I said something about you that was untrue and it hurt you, do I have the right to say that? No, what is that called? Defamation of character. So I don't have free speech. If I were to say right now, fire! And there is no fire, do I have the right to say that? No, right? I don't. If I'm on a platform and I said, you people should fight each other, can I do that? No, what is that called? Inciting a riot. So I don't have freedom to say whatever I want to say. So the First Amendment. So a lot of those pieces are taken out of context. So when the Constitution talks about the rights that we have, those are rights as it relates to the government and the government's relationship to us. So I don't. So the ACLU, American Civil Liberty Union, has kind of stretched some of those things so other people can fit in. But I don't have the right. The Constitution was never talking about my right as an artist to say or whatever I want to about anything. It was saying, as an artist, I can only say particular things about the government. So it's a relationship with the government. So there's that. So this idea, but liberty is that I can do whatever I want. It's very interesting. Another example of the difference between freedom and liberty is if I want to start a business in the United States, what do I have to do? What are some of the steps? Got to get a license. You're going to be a practitioner. What do you have to do? You got to take a test. You got to get a license. What's that? Get certification. Go to school. Set up your taxes. Pay for your licenses. Find a place of practice. Get a supervisor for a while, right? do your 900 hours of supervision, blah, blah, blah. That don't sound like liberty to me. I mean, it doesn't sound like freedom to me. Freedom would suggest I'm a social worker. I'm just going to go do social work. That's not how it goes, is it? So freedom is granted by an organization. And so the organization that grants freedom in this country is called the United States. But I have the liberty to pursue those things. I have the freedom. I don't need, just like the gym membership kind of thing. I don't need to be inside of LA Fitness to run on their track. I can go around the Mall of America, right? At 6 a.m., 5 a.m. You ever been with those flocks of birds? You get run over. Them old people do not play when it comes to walking around. Right? So there's a difference between those two things. So, and so with this white strategic advantage, sometimes people take the liberties because they believe that they have freedom. So that's where a lot of normative kinds of behavior kind of comes up. There's, I think it's very, very interesting that people want to really blame and shame this family around the shooting of the gorilla thing when it should be a no-brainer, right? It should be a no-brainer. Of course the gorilla is going to get shot, right? Yes.
I did not know
Yeah. Yeah. Mostly because most of us have seen way too many movies. We've seen, right?
What they thought was a tranquilizer could have made the gorilla think the child had something to do with that, and it also would take longer.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is, in the movies we see a train. Even tasers, right? On movies, you hit somebody with a taser, they go down. In real life, there's reason that it has two things, and it's usually, more than one person hitting the person with a taser because it didn't always work. So tranquilizing the gorilla would have taken longer than what they had. They already had, it was already, the kid was already in the situation for 10 minutes before they finally made the decision to shoot. So I would imagine that they probably exhausted everything on this side of the moat that they possibly could. The gorilla is a gorilla, right? So we don't know what's going on in his head, and it may look like one thing that he's doing, but it could be something totally different going on because he's an animal and we don't know what he's thinking. So people are like, well, he was so gentle with the kid, and blah, blah, blah. That's cool. My cats are very nice to the mice. For a while,
Yeah.
right? So we didn't know. So yeah, they shot the gorilla. So I'm not exactly sure all the details, but somehow the child slipped into the gorilla containment. The gorilla saw the kid. He was protecting the kid for a while. A crowd started to form. The gorilla got a little anxious. At one point, I think the boy's pants fell down, and the gorilla picked his pants up, fixed his pants. Crowd started to form, and lots of energy, and the gorilla got a little agitated and was dragging the kid across the cage. And it looked as though, although I'm not an animal person, I don't know. It looked as if he was being very protective, but there's no way to know. I mean, a 500-pound gorilla is as strong as 10 men, so it wouldn't take anything, even if he was trying to be gentle with the kid. How does a gorilla know what is gentle with a little boy? So
They can't win it. I mean, if the gorilla kills the child, then everybody's, why don't you shoot the gorilla?
yeah, so it's one of those situations that it's an ethics question in real life, and I think they made the the right choice. I mean, it's sanctity of human life. The sad part is now that the parents are now under investigation and questioning and all this kind of stuff, which, you know, if I'm a social worker, I might want to just check in with the family and see, you know, how you doing, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, should the child be with that family for neglect purposes? And, you know, what's their background?
I didn't climb into the road, but I got lost and I got scared.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, you know, so,
and I don't know how long it was. 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
yeah, yeah, it's scary.
You know, when the boy is about being a little boy,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that would happen to me. I'd be writing books. Like,
I
My-
killed the gorilla.
I killed.
Here.
Okay.
T-shirts. Oh, that guy.
Should I tell you? Oh, okay. Okay. So, so there's that. Oh, and yeah, no, my family, we have a movie deal by now. Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on why things happen like that? With specific, photo shooting and manipulation? And that, to me, that's really scary. People that do that just to more facts. You know, what's going on that problem?
Yeah, we want to form the world in our image. So no, I want to tell the story from my point of view, even if it's not, even if it's not true, right? So yeah, let me. I need ratings. I need. CNN cracks me up because they're fair and balanced, right? But they want ratings just like anybody else wants ratings, right? And so they start talking about the parents' criminal record. Like, really, what really does that have to do with this other thing? If you're being fair and balanced, right? No, you got an agenda just like everybody else got an agenda, right? So, so there's all that. So here's the other thing. So when people are operating from white strategic advantage, particularly white people who are unaware, they think they can talk to and deal with people however they want to because they're in a dominant group. Right? I think I shared, I may not have shared the story that I was at McDonald's and a woman gave me some extra fries. I saw a Somali woman who obviously had some mental health issues because she had kind of a tick kind of thing, kind of nervous thing going on. And she was in the bottom of a bag digging for some coins and stuff. And so the woman gave me extra fries. So I was like, I see a woman struggling. Why don't I just offer her some fries? So I walk over to her and I keep my distance and that kind of stuff. I said, excuse me, ma'am. The lady gave me some extra fries. Would you like some? Get away from me! I didn't ask your help. I didn't want you. Get away! And I was like, cool. I made a bad assumption. I assumed that she would want my help. Why? Because I'm in a dominant position. I'm in a position to make that decision. And so sometimes, particularly with this white strategic advantage, even if it's not real, if it's perceived, people will give or interact with situations that nobody asked them to come into. Yes, sure.
I don't know if anyone else in the country, a lady was at the TV lady, and there was and her child was crying. And they were in the mall, and they were in like the food court, I believe, and the child was crying and calling mom, was ignoring the child. And I don't know why. And then the older white woman came and sat down and like touching the child, like with her hand, like with her hand, mom. Would sound like, stop touching my child, who are you? Like, she never said anything to mom. She just like, sat down and just like, and then I think so. The younger lady, she did a bit. She kept asking that. I can't remember for how long, but then she like hit her or one of the other. I can't remember because the lady kept like refusing to leave because she kept like ignoring her and only the police came and the police took the younger lady like away from her. They, I think Yeah, the teacher can grab the child without even acknowledging the fact that a stranger came and addressed my child, and you're not saying anything. So when I think of that, when you just said that, I thought that was
Yeah. So it's interesting. So, in the gorilla case, would what we're talking about now be different if the racial makeup of the little boy was different than what it is, than what it was? Um, just interesting. Just interesting. Yes.
It's interesting though, the relationship. So the mom had been getting attacked on social media, and she ended up shutting down every one of her accounts. Because she was being harassed. And we found another lady with the same name, completely different ethnicity, and attacked her. So they weren't seeing, it was just the name at that time.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it was interesting that it just, people just blindly attack.
Yeah, but what's in the name?
Yeah. But it had a similar, well, it wasn't similar, but it was kind of similar. There was a little girl who got on the bus at like 3 a.m. to by herself to get a slushie. Sometime when she got out of the house, she got on the bus, and the bus driver was like, "How did she get out?" And they took her back, but she got out of the house, and so, but this parent wasn't an accident. Nothing happened if you come to an animal, but just the mere fact that kids do things that they're kids, and sometimes you can have the best parenting and it has nothing to do with it, and sometimes you do the worst thing. So,
Yeah.
being critical in your thinking of the situation that you're in.
And we'll watch. Yeah. So we're gonna watch some powerful stuff today. So we'll do that. The last thing that I wanted to address that came out of people's notes was so was anyone halfway decent in math in school? Okay, cool. Did you guys ever do ratios or what's it called when you shake the dice and you have to what's that? Probabilities, right? So probabilities. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 circles. One, let me write that down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 squares. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles. All right. So I have all these in a bag, and I'm going to pull one out. What's my probability for pulling out a circle? So I have a 50% chance of doing that.
Can I do the math for you?
So that 5 and 8 is 13. What's that? A little less than half. So because there's a total, so the ratio is 12 to 20, 25, right? So if we could also say that as what? Can we reduce that to a fraction? It doesn't look like it because 5, 10, so yeah, well, I can take one thing away. We'll do that. We'll make it a little easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're at 50%. Right? So I have 50% of getting a circle. Not bad odds, huh? All right. So what's the odds for getting a square? So 33%. And a triangle. So it's 8. So about 60%, and that's 4. Okay. If what I'm pulling out is a job, numerically, if I am a circle, do I have an advantage? Where does that advantage lie? In the majority, in numbers, right? Who's at the greatest disadvantage? The triangles. Why? Statistical numbers, right? So when we talk about this idea, this came out of a question someone had around if we got rid of concepts of race and categorizing and counting people as a part of affirmative action programs, will triangles ever have a fair shot? Statistically. Will they ever have a fair shot?
No, not
Statistically?
really.
No, they won't. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, if I go, I'm a white person, obviously, and I go for a job, my chances of getting it are just as good as the person that's a triangle. It's just that the chances that a white person, that's different
Correct.
than,
That is very different.
okay,
That is very
I
different.
just wanna make sure I understand what
And
you're
Yeah.
any shape, all shapes. Right?
Yeah.
As a one.
wondering.
Yep, so all shapes have a 1 in 24 chance.
Okay.
However, if you are a circle, let's do it like this. If you have a circle, if you are a circle with a particular attribute that is different than all other circles, you are still at an advantage statistically. Does that make sense? So, although you personally are a white female, because you're in the circle category, your chances numerically have increased over among female with your same qualifications. Your chances are greater. Not saying that your likelihood is greater, but your chances are greater because of this statistical anomaly.
So, but we're saying like that we're taking away race, right?
Yep.
So then what then is the differentiation between the circle and the square?
Right.
You know, I guess that's where I'm kind of getting caught up
So
on that.
whether, okay, so let's say, to your point, we said these are shapes. Let's call these all apples. So now all of these, so we're not going to call them squares. We're not going to call them shapes. We're not going to call them things. We're going to call all of these things apples. And I'm going to pick. I'm just going to pick an apple out of this bunch. Does that change the statistics?
I'm understanding that. What I'm not understanding is in order for there to be a differentiation within even the apples, there is some identifier in the individuals. So are you just saying that if we took away the one identifier of race, that there's still other identifiers that are separating what a circle or what the difference
Yeah.
in the apples are?
So all, to be honest, all I was trying to do is just identify the question
Right.
that someone had in the thing, which was, why do we even talk about race? With that, would that change anything? And I'm suggesting that it won't change anything because it's about this. It's about about the
Right, but
numbers.
the statistics are based on there being a difference between each item.
Correct. And that from our societal construct, there is a difference.
Right, yeah.
Whether we call it that or not.
Right.
Right. So yes.
Okay. What I don't get is that I don't see how a circle or a triangle in and of themselves has any more or less based on the amount of one or more having more applying for a job. I could see how I would have an advantage if, in fact, you find that an employer tends to hire 50% more white people than they do, or circle people versus triangle people. I could see that as, yes, I have an advantage if the bias of the person choosing that it changed, yeah, then I have an advantage. But me, if we're not talking about that qualifying part of it, I don't see how I, as a circle, individually have any less or more opportunity than someone who's a triangle coming to take their job. So I guess I'm confused.
Okay, and I'm going to try to clear that up. Go ahead.
And I think that what I am saying is the same, like, there's someone randomly grabbing in there, but there's more to doing their job than that. So it seems like that's confusing me, that if I, as a circle, come up, but I'm not as qualified, I don't have that special thing that the triangle has, because
And I'd like to suggest that this white strategic advantage wants us to believe that. Wants us to believe that, right?
I can see how the white population will generally have more of a chance of having the jobs because there's more white people. But I don't see how individually that changes when you've got a lot of 24 people, and it changes individually for that. But I guess I don't quite follow it.
So Sarah, go ahead.
I guess my thought is, like, if you're talking about one round of picking one job, the circle, and I'm not going to ever say racism, the circles absolutely have advantage for that one round of pick. But if you pick from that bag of shapes a million times, 50% of the time it's going to be circles, 33.3 repeating is going to be square, and 16.6 repeating is going to be triangle. And that's equal. There isn't, in that million sample size, there is no advantage. In the single pick, there is an advantage.
But I would say, to use your example, you don't think 50% is an advantage? Even over those a million picks?
To the individual, it is not an advantage because you're competing against all 23 of the other people. So the culture of circles has an advantage.
Yeah.
But that person doesn't have an advantage.
Correct.
As a culture, it has the advantage,
yes.
but the individual does not have an advantage.
Correct.
And I guess that's, I
Yep.
don't see any way around that. in my
So
head.
that's great. No,
But you said if you take away race, if you take away those things, then you're left with the individual, not the culture of circle, not the culture of square, not the culture of triangle.
and if we just drew, kept drawing, this is what we would come up with, right?
Those are, yeah.
And so for the circle culture, they have an advantage, but for the individual themselves, they don't.
But here's the interesting thing. We cannot separate the individual from the overall culture. So the system, we can't separate people from the system. So the system is generating this, right? I walk into the thing. The individual, I might not get it because I got dots on me. But another circle who's got lines on it has a pretty good chance of getting it.
Because you're talking about the skew of the person picking it, their perception. You're including the person's perception of looking at a lot of people and saying, I have more of a white draw or a striped draw, so I'm going to pick that. Is that what you mean?
What I'm suggesting is that statistically, this is why organizations look the way they do, right? Whether the person has personal or individual bias or not. This is why it looks, and why, and so why, quote unquote, affirmative actions have been needed to even this playing field for organizations that we say need to be flipped.
Then really we're not taking away anything from it.
No, yeah.
No. 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 We'll tease that. We'll tease that out a little bit more. So there's that. So let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break, and I need to take a picture of our notes, and then erase those and prepare us for our film. All right. Cool. So 5 minutes. Thank all you for who brought things. I appreciate that.
Oh, I didn't see that. Wow.
Yeah. But no, I can ask something. We don't like remember. So I feel like we have kind of under.
Yeah, me either, right? Start with the break. Me yeah.
Yeah. You're liberty to do whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something to that. It's a very, like, anybody that's kind of experienced it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Some of know where it is. I would have figured that out. So, some of the ones I have are in some. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is mine.
I do. Yeah,
Drop it out.
Bad idea.
You blow me away. Are you hot?
All right, now, then.
You're alone in this one. But you know, sometimes though, I do have to. Oh, my husband's so hot. Like my son is, I mean, like, I can touch him. Yeah. So I do. My daughter got that too, though. Yeah. I only sweat like him. I only have 2 running hair. Yeah. Yeah. And they're all. Yeah. He works and it's like.
I got confused too.
Whatever. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Or just when you're talking
And so I'm really glad for it.
Yeah.
That's where something's happening. Yeah, yeah. So I was just wondering if you got that stops, not to say that stops in Clinton. Yeah, no. That's why I'm doing this diagram here, fight, flight, and logic and all that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so, so what did you do today? Mostly with men, but I also work with women and children and all that.
I'm getting really
Program doesn't exist.
Oh, right. Yeah, now I've left.
They changed the acronym. I work with. Okay. Oh, sweet, sweet, sweet. No, I was on the board of Alexandria. Okay. Yeah, for a number of years and was active in domestic violence and sexual assault actions. So, yeah, and on all those boards, they were always, particularly on the domestic violence and sexual assault. Were speaking to cultures have a hard time. Incorporating the idea. And I, in my program, I did like a workshop and then I went to walk. I just, no, and it's still now, so there's a battle between the, this idea that domestic violence is power control versus skill and emotion. That's still a hidden thing. And I can find it to the power and control of the person's life. But I even wrote one of my reflections talking about domestic violence and things like that. So that's emotional pain. That's not power.
Yeah, yeah. So those are the two things, that particularly in domestic violence, kind of fly in the face of each other. And it's hard for people to understand that we can have both. That it doesn't have to just be one because you're missing out on other stuff. And then, we also have to talk about as gender roles shift and grow,
I don't see it.
to label a particular group a particular kind of way doesn't necessarily work.
No, I
So,
don't see that. In fact, as the years went by, I had more and more quartered women. Not as much as the men.
Yep.
But it was significant population.
Yeah. So, cool. Thank you.
I don't know.
All right. Let's see. We're gonna do lunch. You want to do lunch at noon? Does that sound good? Yes. Yes. Question. Question.
No, I didn't have a question, I just wanted to say, on the topic of Senate law and
Yes.
I'm not a worker, but I'm an immigrant. And I'm being in Mexico for another the one difference that I can see, and I would be a therapist, is that the one difference that can be between persons and they need to be under their own documents.
Yeah.
Immigrants. When I moved here, I was documents. I'm an American citizen now. What I saw with the people that I interacted with, who were from other countries as well, not citizens, The thought of not being able to go back is huge. I've had friends, and even friends from Holland, who was undocumented and for 10 years could not, and that was the choice she made. I want to be legally, oh, she didn't illegally, but then she overstayed the visa. And the thought of not being able to go back because I had without any she did come back. She did go back, she could never come back to the United States. I got immigrants can choose to move here for, for looking for a better life. That doesn't mean that it's
Yeah, so yeah, it doesn't mean that it's always easy, particularly for undocumented folks, right? But for folks who have immigrated and are documented, yeah, that those push and pull factors are a little bit different because they do feel like they can go home, right? But you do identify a category of immigrants that the undocumented workers have that risk of not being able to if they go home, they can't come back to the U.S. As well as being found out living under this threat of being careful who you talk to, where you go, what you do, because you can be blah blah blah. Again, I also think it's interesting that this white strategic advantage starts to kick in as an umbrella for certain kinds of undocumented immigrants. It's funny, in March, there's always not always, but the last few years that I've been in Washington, D.C. in March, there's been a march called for freeing the Irish. It says free the Irish. So there are lots of undocumented Irish workers, I guess, either in the United States or in DC specifically, and they throw this parade and they have these T-shirts and they want reform for the Irish. They want immigration reform for the Irish, which I didn't know that was a problem, but apparently you put it on a T-shirt. Anyway, so they do that, but I don't see in the news where folks are actively talking about the Irish as a problem when it comes to immigration, the illegal or undocumented immigration. It certainly looks a certain kind of way when people talk about it, right? Yes.
well, this whole idea of white strategic advantage and that immigrants and undocumented workers just happened like this week in my school district. We have an orchestra program, a fledgling orchestra program, and a group, because of all the grants and things that they've gotten, that our Hispanic population is the predominant culture in the orchestra. And so the orchestra teacher was talking with the kids about how in high school they'll get to go on this international tour. And they go on an international tour, every 3 years or whatever. And the kids are all like, well, no, we can't go. We can't leave the country. And the orchestra teacher, it's like, well, what? Like, no idea that would be such a major issue for many of the kids in the orchestra.
Yeah.
Not even a reality.
And in that particular case, it's really sad because kids are impacted by adults' decisions, right? And the adults made the best decision that they thought they could to advance and lead, and
Probably going on a national, probably, but
yeah.
international.
Hopefully not in the South, but Southwest. But anyway, yeah, it's funny. So I told you my wife is Native, and her mother is so they were living in Arizona, and obviously, not obviously, but my wife's mother is Native as well, and it's just very interesting in a place where we have freedom and liberty. People would always ask her about her papers or ask her about stuff, and she's not even Hispanic. She's not Mexican, that was the assumption in the part of Arizona where they were, that she was Mexican. And so, she always prepared to make sure that she had her stuff to prove who she was and that kind of stuff, which I don't know that all of us have to do that, which is an interesting thing. So there is that.
I have a question. Can you explain freedom and liberty again, first version?
Yep.
It's so kind of like this disclaimer to have in mind.
Yep. So freedom is a condition of membership. Freedom is a condition of membership. You get once you become a member, you get freedom. Liberty is without conditions, so I don't have to be a member.
Can you give an example of liberty?
Yep. So let's go back to the kind of undocumented worker kind of thing, right? So they can work, right? So no, let's not use that. Let's do another example. Let's go back to we'll use the gym analogy, and then we'll use a real life analogy, right? So freedom is being able to swim in the swimming pool at the Y, right? Because I'm a member. Liberty is being able to swim at a lake near my home, right? So I can do that wherever. Freedom, in a practical sense, would be so if I'm 16 and I have a driver's license, insurance, all this stuff considered, I can drive, right? I can drive on roads and that kind of stuff. On a farm, I don't need any of that. I can get on my dad's tractor, I can get my dad's car, and I can drive all around the farm, all that I want. I have liberty to do that. But once I step off the farm, I lose my liberty because now I have to conform to the. Is that a better example?
Yeah.
Or is it a halfway
So
decent
there are
example?
consequences within freedom, sort of.
Sort of, yeah. They're constraints.
There's boundaries, and
There's-
you are free to roam
Within those
but once
boundaries.
you violate, then it's kind of like I tell my kids,
Yes.
you are at liberty to talk to me the way you want to, but you are not at freedom to. Because if you talk to me in that way, because you're a human being, you have the choice to. If you also find out in freedom within the Doty household, there are going to be consequences. I don't know if that's an example. But
Another way to think about that is that freedom is in a box. Freedom is in a box. Liberty is without a box. However, what does the box provide? Safety, significance of belonging, structure, protection, blah, blah, blah. No matter, it's so funny. When I was in North Africa, I never felt more American than when I was there. Because not only did the people treat me as an American, I knew my rights as an American. As a person from the United States, and I don't like using the whole general America because that's both North, Central, and South America. But as a citizen of the United States, I had certain kind of rights. And although I didn't feel all that empowered when I was here, but when I was there, I was like, oh yeah, I need to know where the embassy is because they will come get me if I need, I need to hold on to my passport because that gives me, that's where I get my freedom, right? And so sometimes we get that idea of freedom confused. Kids want freedom. What they're really seeking is liberty. They want to be liberated from the freedom that they're granted, right? No, that was a good example. Thank you. That was very helpful. Cool. Yeah.
But somehow or another, just has to.
This is relational. So all relationships have responsibility attached to them, right?
And I think within liberty, understanding that eventually there will be some boundaries in where they find these lives, if there's something.
Here's another thing to kind of think about along with that, right? So let's say I make an infraction in the system that the system doesn't like. Then what do they take away? They take my freedom. But what can they not take away? My liberty. An example, you guys have seen Shawshank Redemption or those prison movies, right? Where, people are either justly or unjustly imprisoned, but within the prison context, people still have lives. They still, orange and black. They're still doing the thing, and so this idea of liberty is outside of the box, but the box actually provides that safety, security, um, belonging, resources, blah blah blah. There are advantages to membership, and one of those is this idea of freedom. Yeah, because they get confused because the box is set by the builders of the box. What they're trying to get is liberty in a box called freedom. And it doesn't work. You get frustrated. You could, but more than likely it's not. So another example of this, just from my personal life. So I was young, 22, 23, was working for this organization, and I said, hey, this organization that had already been around for 50 years before I got there, right? You know what? This organization needs to go this direction. This is a good thing for the organization. They were going this direction, but I said they should go this direction. So guess what I did as a young dummy? I appealed to the makers of so-called of the organization and said, we need to go this way. And they had strategic plans, they had a board of directors, they had, $1 million funders and all this kind of stuff. And the direction I was saying we should go didn't have any of that. No infrastructure, no anything. And they were so kind and so polite to me. And they said, that's interesting because we're going this direction and you think we should go this direction. Let me encourage you by just saying, whenever this ship is not going where you want to go, it might be time for you to get off. Right? So the same kind of thing. When people try to stretch the confines too much, you got to realize that in your own home, it's the same way. In your own city, I want chickens. I want chickens. So I went and bought some chickens, little chicks, 5 different kinds. One is called a silky. Have you ever seen those? So they're bred so that the feathers don't lay down, but they puff up. So it actually looks like, like a monkey or something. Yeah, big old cotton ball, right? Look, chickens, what chickens? I have the liberty to have chickens. But in the city of Mounds View, I gotta pay for the certificate, the right to blah, blah, blah. If I was out if I wasn't in the box called Mounds View, if I was out in Ramsey, I might have the liberty just to pick up chickens. But because I live in a box called Mounds View, I have the freedom to have based on how they say I can have it. So Any other questions? You guys are great. And I know this doesn't sound like this has anything to do with multicultural counseling, but it is at the center of all of that stuff. Because these are the things that that our clients feel impaled in some cases by, or impaired by a lot of these notions. And so I'm glad you're willing to wrestle with me through those. So there are two pieces. Oh, I just ate into that time. There are two pieces I want to show. I'll show one before lunch and then one after lunch. Tell me about the hood. What is the hood? It's attached to your sweater. That's good. That's good. And hopefully no one wears one that's not attached to your sweater. And Megan didn't get. Did you get it? No. Ku Klux Klan wears.
Okay, that's what I
yeah. That's all. Yeah. So.
I don't know the dynamics of their heads.
Well, that's good. That's good. She's like, I don't know the dynamics of the Klan hoods. You know? No, that's great. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Although we have all sorts of diversity that we accept. So, no, the hood. What is the hood? It's short for the neighborhood. So how do you know that someone has crossed into the hood? So it's less white. All right. What else? It's livelier. There's what? Okay, people are more outside. The hood. You see people around. But,
They stick out like a sore thumb.
okay, she's trying to be all diplomatic. She was like, the people not from the geographic area by which you.
It's more run down.
So the hood is more run down. I'm talking about the hood. Yes.
It looks like you said, more run down poverty.
It looks like poverty. Now, I'm not saying what you think. I just want to put that out there. I'm not saying what you think. But when people think about the hood or they talk about the hood, how does it get talked about? Right? Danger. It's usually negative stuff, right? So what are some of the clues that either people talk about or fantasies they have about the hood? What are clues that you're in the hood? Gunshots, right? What else? Graffiti, garbage, drugs, closed down businesses, right? So those are some of the things. Now, what are names that people give for the hood? So the ghetto. What else? The projects. Inner city, and that's my favorite code word. Right? North Minneapolis. Okay, so they give it north side. This is the funny thing. You never hear this, right? So I find it so interesting that when people talk about the hood, it's hyphenated side. It doesn't even matter what it is. North side, south side, west side. But when they talk about like affluent areas, it's never a side. It's not like, Egan side. It's never like, I don't know. It kind of side. It's never side. So I think side has also become a code word for like the hood, right? Go ahead. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I would just say this is just an interesting thing.
Like your Camden.
What if you cross over 94 from Summit Hill, where are you? No, it's Frogtown.
Frogtown, right?
I was just gonna give the example of, I think that the side comes into play when there's one that's more negative than the other. Because in the district that I grew up in, there was the west side of the district and the east side of the district, and teachers want to work on the west side of the district. Because it's thought of as the more affluent, the easier families, the easier kids.
Okay.
And so even though that's, when most people think of that area, they would say it that way, but we have an east side. So that's the negative area.
Yeah, no, I
And
just
so
think.
the west side is the not negative area.
Right, yes.
I could kind of argue that, 'cause when I was in high school, I went to Southwest High School in Minneapolis. And I mean, people were popping up like west, like this, and like south side, all the, like, but instead drive.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, but I'm saying, so you see somebody from Medina, and you're proud about being on the south side, and you represented that. What are they saying? What are they going to say about you?
I don't know. Well, I mean, we were fixing to be diving up in Minneapolis.
Yeah, but that ain't saying. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. Because when you compare, when all cars have to compare themselves to another car in their commercial, didn't it make you want to get the other car?
Yeah.
But like Hondas are, our car is better than Honda cars, and if you're comparing yourself to Honda, shouldn't I be getting a Honda? So if I'm the Edina of South Minneapolis, shouldn't I? Okay, no. So, no. So the hood, right? So, what do we know about the hood? It's undesirable, and it's not safe. And what else do we know about the hood? Do people grow up when they were small children and say, "When I grow up, I want to live in the hood"? So I didn't say anything about people who don't want to leave. I'm saying, is that I want to live in an unclean, unsafe neighborhood. I want people to look down upon me because of my zip code. Right? No, they didn't say that. Right? And why are those places that way? They didn't start out that way. So if they didn't start out that way and they are that way, what's in between? People did it. We made it that way. Right? We made good neighborhoods good. We made bad neighborhoods bad. Right? Where I grew up, the hood was also called the trailer park. You didn't want to be from, you talk about the kid, funny, the kids in the projects talk bad about the kids in the trailer park, right? Because we trying to climb up this oppression tower, right? So,
friend who was from Colorado, and it's called the Grays.
the grades, okay? Okay, so the grade buildings. Okay. Other names for the hood from places you've been. The slums, the birds. Right? So those things this is important, particularly to outcomes of our clients, because they play an integral part. Oh, that's right here. They play an integral part into our. I'm trying to pull mine. Into this feeling of Han, right? This feeling of being attacked by a system or
Can I ask, what do you have written next to the hood?
unnatural causes. That was a film I was just about to show, but I can't find that. I don't see my a video. So unnatural causes. It's a documentary we're going to watch about the health impacts of the hood on people, or this notion of the hood. So we may come back to that because I can't find this. So what I will do is after lunch, I'll try to pull that up. But I want to pull up this video called "The Boys of Baraka." Has anyone ever seen that? Seen The Boys of Baraka? Okay. So what you'll see in this film is a number of these kinds of concepts kind of playing themselves out, as well as I want you to think about where does this program do right, and where do they go awry? Where do they fall apart? All right. So this video, I actually might skip a part so we can get to the whole thing before. So it's on YouTube. You can look it up for yourself. I'm not trying to trick you or give you anything that you can't use. And I would encourage you, if you have clients, you're kind of talking about this idea of hope and advocacy and all those kinds of things that you can use this particular video to do that. Okay. There we go. You can use this particular video to do that. So this takes place in Baltimore, Maryland, and is Baltimore, Maryland a northern state or a southern state? Well, I meant the state of Delaware, sorry. The state of Delaware, is Delaware a northern state or a southern state?
Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland. Oh, yeah, Delaware.
You said Maryland, and then you said, and then you said.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I was,
you were on the right
so,
track.
so I'm on the East Coast.
So here's the thing. Did Maryland have slavery during the Civil War?
Uh-huh.
So which side did they take?
Uh-huh.
So which are they?
So which are they? Now, the answer is that they are in fact split. They were forced, they did have slaves, they were forced to fight for the Union against their will, So you'll see, so there are certain kinds of politics that start to show up because of that, right? So I think it was at Beacon Hill, they still have cannons pointed at the city of Baltimore as a memorial. So, so interesting. But so we'll watch this film. It's been almost 10 years, a little more than 10 years since this came out, and when I found it, I was like, this is cool. And you'll see why I think it's cool, because it's a tale for us as practitioners. So there is that. If you're gonna hit those lights, that'd be great. Can you see?
What I'm saying, if you just go to court of law, you understand? Okay,
the time you turn 18. The first thing that you might get is you might get an orange jumpsuit with some nice bracelets that go in your arms. Okay? The second one is a nice black suit with a nice brown box. Think about that one. And then the third one is you might get a nice black gown and a nice cap and a diploma in your hand. Gentlemen, I'm here today to talk to you about the Baraka School. The Baraka School is an all-male boarding school in Kenya, East Africa. Everybody asks me, is this a school for bad children? Is this a boot camp or is this a jail? It's none of those things, okay? This is an educational opportunity, okay? So I want young men who are interested in changing their attitude and behavior. How many people here have ever been suspended? Suspended. Isn't that nice? Everybody put their hands down. All of you are not going to graduate from high school. That's why we have programs like Baraka, because we want to make sure that you all succeed. We want to make sure that you all graduate from high school and go to college. My neighborhood is mostly about drugs. For real. People that don't even drugs, stick the needle in their arm, messing up their blood. I know I'm smart if I'm not around stupid and dumb people. You see, I can't let them get here. Let them stay out there. And I don't want my brother, my baby brother anyway. Well, no project. But no children. I don't want to. I want him to. No, I'm strong. I'm a strong man. Like, what's your name? Frederick Douglass. I'm strong, just like him. I'm strong, and I'm gonna tell you I'm strong. And I'm willing to admit it. Get away from me. I can't wait for that little man.
I never seen one of these, because I don't never travel. Who do you think my children are going to Africa this year? And when the letter came, congratulations, Ronnie Schmantz, congratulations, Richard Keegan, boy, was I happy. They accepted both of them. Ronnie he come running home. I'm like, boy, what's wrong with you? He's like, Ma, I'll go to Africa. I'm like, boy, please. When he got here, I said, boy, please. I'm like, what you talking about? I called his neighbors myself. I mean, mother, the first day I talked to her, she asked me what would happen if one go and one don't go. I said, don't make one a king and make the other one a killer. But it might not show, but it is kind of big now. If this is called the default plane, then I do like this. I mean, like over my legs, I do 6 inches like that, and really look like that. When you're 6 inches, I can't do it anymore. Like that. That beaver. Strong.
Ever since he was 3, 4 years old, he wanted to be a preacher.
He would talk about God, and God loves us, and And when I take him to church, and he's a little teeny thing, and Devon clapping his hands and amen and just singing the songs and whatever words Devon doesn't know, Devon put his own words. Devon had a lot of anger. Devon was the meanest little child. Oh, Devon was mean. I tell Devon to do something and don't you, and you know, I'd send him to his little timeout, Devon. I was always in the school system. I guess because of his mom, you know, the situation with his mom and his dad. He was so rude and angry with him.
I had smoked marijuana and I drank at an early age, and I stopped and I started doing heroin and cocaine at age 27. I can say Devon ain't gonna use drugs. He has a lot of information and he's well educated and like he learned. About you wanna buy? You your own drugs, go ahead.
All right, this time I'm gonna pray. Sometimes when people try to get you down, you just got to pray. When people try to destroy your joy, you just got to pray. And when your daughter out there nip-napping, you just got to pray. Sometimes we just all should get together and bow down on our knees and confess with our tongue that He is Lord. Because when we praise His name and give Him some glory, God will come and destroy us and He will take us back up to His kingdom. All they got to do is let Jesus know, and He will write it up, seal it, and the angels will give it to Jesus. Somebody say, yeah. Yeah. Let go! Let go!
Amen. Praise the Lord, everybody. As you know, we got right here to start me. I have Brother Damon Brown. He is one of our own. And he's going to Africa. And we want to wish him well. Because it's a blessing to see one of our own to go to Africa, to go to school. So we're going to give God some praise right now. And you know what? We know He's going to do good. You know why we know He's going to do good? Because God's going to be with Him. Amen. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. That's what I'm talking about. Put up there. Put up there. Oh, man, I love you, baby. Love you. Amen. Amen. Praise the Lord, everybody.
You have your third strike, and you're gonna be unhappy when you go home. Just know it. Everybody put your head on the desk. Everybody put your head on the desk.
so much trouble I can't even remember. I got spanked like 8 times. Listen, I get in trouble so much because when she always say, I hear you, Montre, because I left nobody that much with me. And people crack on me, I always talk about that mother. And Jackson Blake said me, but he said something X-rated about my mom. I said, goodness, you want something going for her? I want to say something so nasty, I know the whole witness won't believe that. I'm being scientist, a chemologist. We go to middle school, high school, college for 6 years. So I get my master's degree, my bachelor's degree. I think it's called a GHD or MA or something. Yeah, PhD, a TLC, everything. Police right there. The police be around all the time. Last year, when I was coming home from work, I witnessed a 17-year-old get killed right there. It's a block from where I live there, and me and my daughter, he was in the house, I believe, when he in the house, right? And there was some teenager guys outside, and he like killed the boy right in front of us. This is one of the reasons why I chose to let Montre go to Africa. I did the best I can do for him as his mother, but I can't fill his father's shoes. So it's just that I don't want him to live the life that his father lived, and I don't want him to live the life that these young guys around here living. And I want him to get the opportunity to see that there are better things out here. Come on, right? If I'm in jail, how do you feel? My father, he shot my mother in the leg. It's sad that somebody else gotta take care of me, and my father was gay because he in prison 13 years and a half, maybe. Can't wait till you come home to my mom because I'm gonna fuss with her. Yeah, you fall, yeah, you fall, you fall when you come home. Good tired, you get tired. I'm saying to my mom, I wish he was here too.
Right now, I just gotta pay for what I've done. It don't stop our love, it ain't gonna stop us from being together. It ain't gonna stop none of that. You know what I mean? We just got a wall in between us right now.
I think those parole people better hurry up. Cause we ain't got all day.
What else? Let me know, man. Talk to me.
We're going to Kenya. The name of the school is Morocco School. It's in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going there, so when I grow up, I'll be somebody. Don't I worry about coming to a place like this. Can't see my children because I'm in here.
Mm. You know what you're doing. You're smart enough to know.
Yeah. My smallest kids and born on rest.
I'll be rooting for you, man. To do this right. Mm.
Can I check you in, Richard? Just 2 days. Yeah, I got big days. Yeah. They're yours, right? Yeah, me and my brother. All the Bronco boys in one area right here. All the Bronco boys right here. What's your real name? Justin, be good. Make sure you call me. It's for your education purposes, okay? It's all right. You're gonna be okay, and you're gonna be okay, okay? Alright, you got
Hey guys, first of all, I want to say officially, welcome to Baraka School. I have a feeling you're going to find a whole lot of things different here than they were in Baltimore. One of the things we're going to ask you, and this will be throughout the year, is deal with your problems appropriately. We do not have to resort, hopefully, to physical stuff around here. The whole goal here is talk your problems out, deal with them in an appropriate way. All right?
Did we just say living? Did we just say living?
We're 20 miles from the nearest town. We don't have 24-hour electricity. It is very much a wilderness sort of an experience in that you're out in the bush, television isn't happening. I think really the biggest thing around Baraka School is it lets these boys be boys. It lets these kids be 12 and 13-year-olds without having to worry about all the other stuff that's been happening in their lives.
Look. Right there, in the middle. Oh. What are the clouds? Dang. Jumbo! What's that? Did you not say don't give him somebody? Can't go on to this. Can't go on. But boy, I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna eat it in a butt. Don't eat it like I know what might happen. Yeah, I know. I thought we were gonna be like staying in like a shed or something. This is my apartment. Right now, this is my beautiful apartment. Well, hold on. It's time for dinner, y'all. What y'all see me doing? Don't you see it's time for dinner? They wanna wait. Hello. Hi, Ma. We just came from a hike like an hour ago. And I got some little eggs in my counter. No. I haven't even been away from home that long. They gone. Hello. Wrong number.
I can do all things. A-E-I-O-U. Everybody say that. A-E-I-O-U. Please say the words after me. Jambo. Jambo. Now, jambo means hello. So when somebody says jambo to you, you say jambo. Jambo, Gamer. One tree is already. So you can choose to go how we is put it up. Hey, oh, then what? I'll be right there. I'll be going to wait.
I want to come home. Cause this place is not letting me just stay as we be. She lied. So I'm in Africa, what else can I say? Dear Mom, I miss you very much. Mom, I'm doing okay. You don't have to worry about nothing. Cause I'm doing okay. I miss everybody. I miss girls. There's something better than a cat, a hedgehog. See? I would like you to send me some gum, some soda, some chips, and some candy. Because I want everybody to say hi. Tell the church I love them. Some kids want to go home already. I'm one of them. You're not going to cry about it, huh? Because I am brave to do this.
I know shit's gonna be like this.
I didn't know it was gonna be like this either. You gotta get used to it. You cannot walk over from here all the way down there to the airport.
Tanya, you ain't getting past the project. They're gonna hit you with that stick, take your bag,
They want to take your shoes. They probably gonna take your socks. Left it on your feet. I don't really want you to go. When you go, I wish you good luck.
That's all right. That's all right. It's something here. Being the strongest, healthiest hiker. Richard Keezer. Yay! 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 Come here. The hell you got? Come on. I got hair everywhere. Oh, I don't know. So when y'all go back?
September.
September. Come on, tell me.
Did you see that girl walking down the street with the braids and she was crying? She sleeping in the street, don't say nothing. I wish she would have said something. Listen, I would have gave that bitch a brand new face with this mouth. She ain't even no competition. That's why I wouldn't even fight her again. She wasted my motherfucking time and breath. I could have been eating a sandwich right then and there. That girl fucked with the wrong person. She trying to set me up. She knows she pregnant. She'll get me locked up. I went to jail one time. You don't want to be over no jail. No, you don't want to be over no jail for no funny shit. Oh, you can't turn it to God.
So what you gonna do different for this year coming, Devon?
I don't know.
Tomorrow, what you do?
I don't know. Right now I'm just bored and tired, sleepy.
He's in a bad mood. Aren't they always in a bad mood when the mom's around?
She's not using, no. Everything is fine with her. And she just wants to spend the day with her children. And I told her no, because I really don't want her around. She can hear the first day higher than a Georgia pie. But she ain't high. Oh no, she'll take a pee test for me in a minute. Because no, she is not high.
But this time for real, I'm not coming back. For real, I'm just not. I could stay home and watch movies and listen to my music and have a lovely old time. That's that right about me. That's what it is.
Trey, how did you get so girl crazy after you came home?
Crazy. I just like them a whole.
You like them too much.
About 3 weeks ago, Trey called himself liking this girl, and it was, I think, her birthday. Was that one that?
Tiana. I named Tiana.
Trey bought her a little Tweety Bird, and he gave her some money. And the next day, after she got the gifts, she quit it.
She go down there and get all the.
You give too much. See, you can't buy people. And the first thing you do is give a girl something. Let her like you for yourself.
Man, when is y'all done?
I'm serious.
No, she didn't. I don't buy girls that much. I don't buy girls nothing. I buy a bag of chips. That's big. No, the most money I spend on girls is $1.50. You shut your mouth. Excuse me. Excuse.
Trey thinks he's a player. And all that stuff is gonna catch up with you.
Never that.
Yes.
No.
And that summer just wasn't my summer. Ran like water. I stand at home most of the time. Not confirming none of these boys. Let's look at me. Like the drug dealer. Coke, dope, weed. They troublemakers, tell you that much.
The reason why I called the meeting today is because I have a little bit of sad news. We've been dealing with heightened security problems at the school all year. You guys are all aware of that. It started last November with the bombing in Mombasa, the war breaking out in March, the travel ban in May by British Air, and unfortunately they closed the US Embassy in Nairobi. At the closing of the embassy, I was informed that we will not be recruiting new students for the Baraka School. We will not be recruiting new staff, and the operation of the school right now is suspended.
If the school remains suspended, what are we to do as parents and children that have spent a year there to do for the 8th grade? I know my son, just from my experience with the program, Davon has come from being satisfactory to being on a dean's list.
He's awesome, I tell you, it's gotta be something we cannot live with. What are we gonna do if it's been suspended? What would we do for the 8th grade? Will they be able to go to the 8th grade?
If they have to stay here in Baltimore, they will be going back to their zone schools.
And Lombard Devon was failing. I can't take Devon from there and put him in a public school here. I can't do that. I can't do that. He's not going I'm not sending him back into no Calton.
It's a war zone here.
No. Thank you. Thank you. You know, there's a different kind of war here.
That most likely to get killed here in Baltimore.
Right on the corner.
On the corner. Then they would over there.
Yeah. My son is not gonna be the next statistic that's gonna be out here. My child is gonna make it. They're not gonna send my child back to Calverton because that's his zone. If Baraka is gonna let him down in Africa, it's gotta be a program to keep them together right here. I'm not gonna let him down right here. He's not gonna fall like that. That's a step back. You sending him to that new juvenile detention center. That's where he's going.
When you send on the Baltimore,
not my son.
You send another jail.
Not my son.
We'll finish the last, just about 10 more minutes, so we'll finish after lunch. Any thoughts before we break for lunch? What you saw, anything?
Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
Has anyone here seen the movie or the TV show on HBO, The Wire?
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of those.
Yeah, same place.
No.
Same place. All right, I'll see you at 1.
No. I'm not close to going back. I'm going home. Yeah. Did Shonda drop the class?
I don't think so. Can someone turn on the light for me?
I get life. What if she was here, but she wasn't here
Yeah, she wasn't here on
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe she'll come this afternoon. I didn't get an email
Okay.
saying anything to the contrary.
Okay. We just, yeah, something spilled there. Is it wet? I don't know, I didn't care. You didn't want to investigate the. No.
Is that leaving for lunch so that I don't?
Come on.
I'm sorry, I cannot attend this afternoon. I gotta do something for my kids, but for my daughter. I wanted to know what I was gonna miss this afternoon. I mean, I have the syllabus.
Yeah.
And the presentation's on next week? Next Thursday?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Wow, this class went so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I'll be working tomorrow. And the rest, the early next week on their presentation.
Okay.
Then I have my 2 partners' contacts, so.
Okay.
I think one of them is not here today.
Yeah.
Or was not here this morning. So.
Okay. So we're gonna talk about this piece. So if you can.
I actually checked that it's on YouTube.
Yep. So.
It's the first one on YouTube. It's Boys of Barack 2005.
Yep, Boys of Barack.
So I'm going to be watching the rest today.
Yep. So just think about that. The other piece. What is the piece? Implicit bias test. If you could do that.
Implicit bias test.
Yep.
Where do I
So we're
find
gonna
that
do
on?
that. Yep. It's you write this down. It's called the Harvard Implicit Bias Test.
I found that online.
Yes. Yep.
So the Boys of Barack and the
Harvard Implicit Bias Test. If you can do that and include that in your journal, the results of that in your journal. And you want to do the one on racial bias.
The Harvard implicit test, racial.
Yeah.
Test.
Yeah. You'll
So
see.
that is to do for next Thursday.
Yeah.
Is there position paper due for next Thursday?
Yes.
That would be number 4.
Yeah.
Paper 4. And presentation next week.
Yeah. I can't believe this happened so fast. All right, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Next week is presentations already, huh? Next week, Thursday. Is it?
I think so, we only have 2 Thursdays.
Oh, okay, no, so yeah, it'll be half of the last, yeah, so, no, we're good, okay. Phew, you scared me, I was thinking it was we have 2 Thursdays left. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that today too. So I have to bump some up because we can't get them all in.
I'm still not part of a group because we didn't address it last time.
So we're gonna spend group time today.
Okay.
So I'll get you in a group today.
Well, we might not have a third person, so.
Okay. What are you guys doing?
We're doing multiracial?
Yeah. Who is your third person,
I'm with, there's 3 of us girls, Shauna.
Sean.
She was in here Thursday and then she's not here again today.
Yeah.
She sat kind of back here.
Yep.
She had older children in maybe high school.
Yep.
That she discussed.
Yep.
Yep, I remember now.
Yeah. I wonder where she is. Okay. I'll send her a message.
Yeah, last Thursday, you know how you're like saying having a hard time with the last couple of weeks. I was like struggling like that too. Last Thursday was like my day. It was so hard to come to classes. I was like, I want to go like, get a drink and go to eat and celebrate being off.
But yeah, I'm going down the days, man. I told you that I would not wait at 880 hours a year. I'm at like 800.
Oh.
Right now.
Like
And
you
it's just,
can see and just
I just can see on my last day, I'm starting like a half day to kind of clean out my office and to wrap things up. And I just am struggling to stick it out.
I was exact same place.
So close, but yet so just not quite. I finalized my review with my advisor, my clinical director, and I'm struggling to like, we don't have a daytime counselor, so the clinical supervisor is overseeing everything, and I'm just not getting paid, so it's resentment that I'm doing all this work. Free work, even though it's gonna be my job. It's different when you can have ownership over your work. So I'm not staying there. I'm not staying with the clients.
right.
I'm not getting paid. And I'm losing that I'm doing this for school and to better myself. It's a new perspective. I don't like that I've gotten there.
But well, not but, and you know you're there. That's a good spot to be in.
Yeah.
It's the people who don't know that they're there that are the scary people.
Right. There's definitely acknowledgement over the fact that like I'm over it. I'm ready to be done. It's just really coming to head. And I acknowledge that and admit it.
I literally found myself like talking positive on the way. I haven't gotten there yet. It was so hard to like pull out, and I have over 1,000 hours because of the relational hours are so hard to get. So just like knowing that.
Right.
It was just.
No, and I haven't gotten to that. It's just getting to the point where I'm building a resentment towards the clinical director because he just sat around all Friday afternoon and we were running around like chickens with our head cut off, trying to get weeklies to the POs and all this information out. And, we're doing the work of 1.5 people. There's no push to hire a counselor. That's why I'm there, is to gain insight and awareness and to learn. And instead I'm just doing the work of someone that's not there. And Al's just kind of overseeing. He's there for the licensure. Because we need that LEDC there.
Right.
And we're just doing all this work. There's no proactive to, I think they're going to hire on Courtney, the other intern. And so I think they're just kind of waiting it out until she gets her licensure. She's been with that day group since January. So I think that's the plan. It's like he's just gonna oversee everything. So, I know I would first talk about looking at one of the facilities. So I wanted to be try like taking it a little bit more. So, if we're really doing it all, just like take that. I don't know.
So Shauna just hit me, she sent me an email message about not being in class today. And yeah, she's ill. So count her in on your group. And which are you guys doing?
We're doing like multiracial or mixed racial.
Okay.
Mostly lines of mixed races.
Would that be something you would be interested in?
Because we only have 3 in our group.
Right.
So
yeah, if you wouldn't mind, then you guys can exchange information. I'll give you project time today to work on that.
I recognize that worksheet. Is that where you feel your anger?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, with the colors and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really neat with this activity to do it even like bigger and have like the people outline, like get big, long paper.
Okay.
Just have them like trace themselves. Well, I did this with mom and kids.
Okay.
And then the kids, moms would draw, outline each other and then we could cut them out. So it's more of like proportions.
Right.
Stuff, but yeah. It's amazing how much like the kids get into it and the parents actually get into it and like things they realize. Yeah.
The therapist
it's amazing.
aid. Yeah. The therapist aid website is pretty good.
Therapist aid?
Yeah. Therapistaid.com.
Okay.
It's like,
that's where I got it.
yeah. A lot of simple like one page things. Like one page worksheets.
Mm-hmm.
The clients do kind of go over. You don't want to like lecture at them. It's reviewing.
Is it not there? What's going on?
Debatable.
That Chipotle smells so good.
Doesn't, I'm always afraid it's gonna just stink the whole room.
Oh no, it smells fabulous.
Oh, good.
I really like those things that you make. I don't know what they are, but they look fabulous.
In the jar.
And I need your secret.
Oh, in the jar?
Yeah,
Super easy.
that's what I need in my life, something super easy.
Yeah. I mean, it requires some chopping and stuff, but
Prep work and that.
you could probably make like 4 of them on Sunday or something, you know, and just have them in your fridge.
Oh man, with bread.
Uh-huh.
And that's raw. That's what I'm eating tomorrow.
Sunday.
Yeah.
How did you like figure to do that? Did you just come up with that on your own, or did you like see something on the internet?
You're talking about, oh,
Yeah.
the jar thing? Yeah, it was like, you know, on Facebook where you get the like the dish it kind of you can watch a video of someone putting something together that's super easy. That was one of them. It just happened, I don't know why.
Sure, a lot of people
buy, instead of buying like expensive Tupperware, right, we'll get the mason jars and like just store everything. My husband, he's starting to become that person that like, if something comes in a glass jar, he'll wash it and then save it.
Oh, yeah.
And so now we have a shelf in our pantry that's starting to put That's good. Just like random jars, because he doesn't like plastic. Right. And they're like perfect size for like carrot sticks and, veggies.
I make my own salad dressings too, so I have to hang on to stuff so that I can.
The glass jars that
Yeah.
I store it in, yeah.
Mhm.
Because that's what we can do. Yeah. It's like I never thought I'd be that person who's keeping.
I know.
Saving bags. I heard someone saying, was it Target or was it Walmart? Walmart. They're going to start charging a 5-cent surcharge for bags.
Target.
Was it Target?
Yeah, I saw something about Target charging.
Yeah.
And you get like discounts if you bring your own bag in. They take like 10 cents or 5 cents off.
Wow. We've been trying to do that for years.
Wits about me to bring my bags. A lot of
Yeah.
times I'll have them in the car and I'll forget to bring them in.
Yeah.
And then
A lot
after
of people
checkout, I'm like,
store them in the car. Take in the trunk.
I think I remember to take them back in the car.
Yeah.
So if you have them in the car, then.
well, for some people, but apparently not me.
Oh.
I can have them in the car and still forget them to bring them in, and then I have a 4-year-old who, or at the time, babies. I'm like, I'm not going back out to the car right now. Did you get my email?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry for the.
No, it's just one of those things where I wonder if I got the wrong email address, and then I haven't heard from Shauna, so.
Yeah, I just got an email from her this morning. So she's headed towards the ER. She said.
Oh no.
So just reach out to her. I let her know that we may have to make some alternative arrangements. If she can't make it next week or whatever. So just encourage her, and then she and I will talk.
Okay, what should we do?
Continue to email her and encourage her to finish her part of the presentation.
Okay. Because we're doing those on Thursday, right?
Yep.
Tomorrow I will get you information. It's like I'm gonna do it.
Sounds good.
I'm going to give you some time today to kind of huddle around what you have for your.
So I ordered my Chipotle at online earlier, so I can just walk up there, right? So I go and get it, and I walk up to the car. I sit down and I'm like, why is there crap like junk all over my pants? Well, wherever they stored it, they had it sitting on its side. So in the bag was like sopping wet. I didn't know.
Oh, so they like laid it.
Cockeyed in the. I get out to the car and I go back in going, yeah, I think we need this bag and maybe a different bowl. But
It's true when you try to be efficient.
I know, like, I just spent just as much time there as I would have if I just would have walked up there and spent food in line, because mine wasn't that bad, really, but.
Need that.
Oh, well. It is still a slick service when it goes well.
Yeah.
Sometimes those boys can like cost
Oh, I
a
know.
really long time.
And like I was thinking to myself, any issue with Chipotle is probably a good one, because it means you're getting Chipotle. But, so what am I complaining about?
Speaking of that, I saw something on I think it's NPR. It was NPR via Facebook that Whole Foods is getting bad press because they use private prisons. They use labor from private prisons for agriculture. So some of the companies that they're buying produce from are connected to private prisons, and so prisoners are the are the cultivators. And that's not good. Private prisons.
All right, I see the connection.
So
The private prisoners are not reaping from their own work. Basically, they should be in.
yes.
Oh, they're not getting paid.
So prisoner. So when you have a workhouse kind of system, prisoners don't get paid market
Yeah.
rate. So they're getting reduced. So people are getting labor at a significantly reduced rate under the guise of it's paying for their room and board and that they get something as opposed to getting nothing. But one could extrapolate that that's just a sophisticated method of continuing systems of slavery, and bondage.
Marginalizing and taking advantage of.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, if you have prisoners, I don't have a problem with that, just as long as they're getting compensated remotely fair.
Yeah, and it's not remotely fair. I mean,
Considering how much Whole Foods sells their food. I mean,
right.
That's the other side of it. It's like.
And it's a smart. I mean, it's a smart business decision, right? So I heard a pharmaceutical company say, "Look, we're not in the healthcare industry. We make medicine.
Yeah. That's true.
That's what we do. We make medicine. That's what we do." So no, I get it. I get trying to get as cheap labor as you possibly can, but at some point, you got to ask yourself at what cost? Like,
see, that's when you're talking about freedom and responsibility. It's like, okay, maybe I have the freedom to get the cheapest labor as possible, but really should I?
Yeah.
The responsible thing is to maybe consider that I'll up their salary.
Yeah. I don't use the automated cash registers.
The ones where you do it yourself.
You do it yourself. I don't use them. I don't use them. Taking somebody's job.
And when I was in San Francisco a couple months ago, I went to McDonald's automated.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
First time I'd seen that at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really think about it. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I walked out. I don't know why.
Yeah. No.
My wife wanted ice cream 3 years ago. I should get ice cream.
Yeah. But no, I mean this, and that's just my little protest.
That's your little protest.
It's my little protest. Our system is just so jacked up. Like
The email, everything, the app, or with.
no. I'm just talking about just American stuff. Like I'm just watching this thing. Watching this documentary called "Raising America," and out of the Western so-called civilized countries, in how. So we're 26th out of the world in, let me see, what's the category? Child well-being. Number 1 is the Netherlands. They have all these areas. So all the Scandinavian countries are doing well. Netherlands, Norway, Iceland, Finland, Sweden. Relatively speaking, there's also small countries, so that's not. Yeah. So you have to take that into consideration as well. But like Yeah. So I thought, I didn't know Luxembourg was a country.
Yeah.
I thought that was a part of Germany, but I'm sure there's a Luxembourg, Germany, but I didn't know it was a country. Okay. Yeah, Switzerland, Belgium, Ireland, Denmark, Slovenia, France, December 13. Canada and Australia, which are almost comparable to us, are 17 and 18. These are all European countries or Western countries. There's nothing in Asia or Africa that's on this list. Interesting, interesting. My wife and I were looking at her going back to work to get 2 incomes.
Yeah.
Not even worth it.
Oh, no.
We'd pay more
Yeah.
for her to go back to work in childcare than we would the savings that.
And your standard or your quality of life goes down a little bit too because of the stress of, in some ways.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
No, absolutely. We'll keep.
Sometimes who's picking up food and
Yeah.
at the door. Although for her, maybe she feels like she wishes she could go back to work. Too. Me feeling stuck at home.
Yeah. But I know like in your Scandinavian countries, we get our pay stub and it has all the deductions and everything. That about that many deductions on it. In Sweden, it's like that one.
Yeah. Their taxes are considerable. It's 55 to 60% of your income. But there's some trade-offs there too, right?
Yeah.
So they get 10. We get 10 weeks of vacation. They get almost double that. Their
Work week is about 33 to 34 hours.
yeah. They
That's max, between 30 and 35.
yeah. I mean, quality of life
Quality
there
of
is
life.
really big.
Pretty big, yeah.
So
2-hour lunch breaks.
Is it like New Zealand kind of like that too? I've heard interesting things about. We have some friends that live there now.
Yeah, I'm not sure about New Zealand. I'm not sure.
I think it's kind of like that where everybody's got a job.
Yeah.
Long vacations.
Yeah.
I know that for them to get what would be maybe like the visa to live there or whatever, they had to go through extreme health screenings, and you have to be a certain level of health to even be considered.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure their resources are. I mean, part of it is probably resource driven too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a small country.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I wish this class was so much longer. There's so much stuff to talk about.
Much longer. You get kind of used to the cycle of it, but it's still some classes it's not enough time to absorb it appropriately.
I know.
So I'm gonna leave about 3.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
My daughter's the goalie of her soccer team.
Oh, sweet.
No, they lost 6-0 this morning. And they play at 3:30 and no one was, Kevin coaches at the same time, so no one would be there for her. So
Okay.
yeah, she's
Well,
she's a little upset.
that's a little brutal.
Yeah.
And she's the goalie?
Yeah.
Oh.
Played the whole game inside the box.
Yeah. Oh, so she, this might be an ice cream day. I don't know if she likes ice cream. But.
I just hate to have her there without anyone there.
I did just stay here, I got food. So I'm just shopping on Amazon.
Become expensive before you realize it.
I know, and I was just ordering a bunch of medicinal movies that I'd be able to use with clients. With normal addictions, and so I'm like, oh, let's get a bunch of like $5 movies. $100 there. I'm like, how did this happen? They were all under $10. Right? I don't get it. I'll put it on it.
Unfortunately, that adds together.
I know. What? Ow. Ah, dang.
I had ankle surgery right between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so we did almost all the Christmas shopping on Amazon.
All right.
Medication from bed. And Kevin would come home, he's like, we got like 15 packages. What are you buying? I'm not really sure. Then the next day, we got like 30 packages.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, my Lanta. That's hysterical.
They were like basketball hoops. Like,
just random.
Take the computer away
Yeah.
from your wife who's on Valium.
I feel pretty good. Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Feeding her addiction to shopping.
I know. My husband, I'll go in spurts. I'll be too lazy to like go to the store and find all I need.
Okay, if you want to know a rabbit hole, wish.com.
I've heard advertisements for Wish.com. What is it?
It's like AliExpress, Alibaba. You can get lots of all sorts of stuff in from China or from the Philippines or whatever. But once you click on one thing, so like they have all of these things that you can get. But once you click on one, it starts to narrow search down, and then it like gives you like and the more you click, the more stuff that you get that's like the thing you're clicking, but it never stops. It just brings more and more stuff to your thing, and so you just and so
It's everything you wished for.
it's everything
Without
that
even
you
knowing.
right, and it's not even stuff you didn't even know you wanted. It's anything that's like the thing that you, and they just keep bringing it, and you just keep. I remember I sat out and I looked, and I was like, I just spent 40 minutes looking at this site, and I didn't even buy any. I mean, I was just like, and you just keep going.
That Amazon line that's like, people who bought this also bought
like
this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I need all those things too.
Yeah.
Look at all these movies that I could get.
It's like that. And they just keep piling more stuff onto the page.
It's funny when you sign up for a class here, you go to Amazon to buy your books. It all appears on that page because there's been enough people buying those common books
Yep.
together. It's like, oh gee, it's every single book that I need is here.
But the thing that freaks me out is when I go to Amazon and then I go to my other websites, and the stuff on my other websites, the ads are the ones from Amazon. And I'm like, how did they know that I'm I mean, that's spooky to me.
It is kind of spooky.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like that
Looking
very
at
much.
travel sites and then it keeps coming up. Your trip to wherever is still waiting you. Like,
Yeah.
they're still waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, stop, I'm just looking. Stay away.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Are we done at 3 today?
Would be helpful.
We might do a little bit later, because I want to make sure you guys get some time in your group to work on some stuff.
My daughter has her dance recital today.
Dance recital. What's?
Jazz Camp in
Oh,
LA.
oh, sweet. Whose studio?
Metro Dance in Shoreview.
Okay. I live in Mounds View, so
It's right off of, what is that? Lexington and 96.
yeah. Okay, cool. No, she just finished gymnastics out that way with somebody. And we're gonna go back to Shoreview Community Center for swim lessons. That's where she got her first set of swim lessons. And then we went to the Y, because I'm a Y supporter, but it was just different than, it was so crowded at the Y. Actually, that was the biggest problem. But yeah, so she's a turtle, I think, is her her swim.
My husband's still trying
level.
to convince me of that.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last night, I was like, it's like, so all of a sudden you have this one, like, so this is what I was looking at. And like, here. And I'm like, it was like Spidey.
Andre, I really like your suggestion of watching soccer at the Midtown Global Market.
Oh yeah,
He wants to buy
yeah,
a
do that,
dog.
please. No, it's fun. It's a great time.
I mean, not
There's
just
no
like
house on it.
during the
It's
World
just
Cup, you'll
land.
get people from wherever teams are from. But this soccer, that sounds cool too.
Yeah, I loved. So, I love Scotch. I loved Scotch, and Brits is the place to. Yeah, you just get a whole. I forgot what's it called when you get a number of drinks together, different kinds of drinks. It's kind of what? Yes, flight.
You get a flight of
A Scotch. Yeah, they have Scotch flights, and you just. But I don't do that anymore. So, but. Prepper. A prepper. Back up off of preppers now. Back up. All right. So, questions, comments about the video so far? We're gonna watch. I skipped the middle part, which is how the boys kind of were developing and were using conflict in a different kind of way. They found educational success while they were in Kenya, and then we saw the news that they won't be able to go back. Some of your thoughts so far before I show this last piece about what you noticed, what you felt. Some people said it was sad or tragic or whatnot. Thoughts? Yes, Erica.
It brings me back to what you were saying in class on Thursday about the big planet and the little planet in terms of gravitation and doubling down on resources and how this was a little planet, yet there wasn't that many resources. And then now you're back in the same environment. And even though we didn't see the whole thing, I kind of already had a sense that what do you do? When you give someone a taste of the other, they can't go back and unsee what they've seen. So then what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is the plan moving forward? Once they finish that, I mean, even if they weren't being told they can't go back, what happens after that 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
What's the plan for reentry? It's the same concept in my mind as when we have military coming back after being in war.
Yeah.
What are we doing to support the reentry into what they have to deal with day to day now?
Nothing.
So here's going to be the. I think you'll get a kick out of what we come up with, what we come up with in the film, because there is it's nuanced, but it's extremely important, right? So we'll hear the rest of this. So if someone just wants to hit the light for me. So the young man we're about to see, his name is Montre, and Montre in the middle of the film gets into, we saw him at the beginning where he was mouthing off and cussing and at some point during his experience, he turned a corner, cursing went down, was with the program, that kind of stuff. And this is his response to the fact that the school was being closed.
I'm just sitting there watching 8 Mile. I think the phone rang, and I picked up the phone and it was the mom grandmother. She said, the school might be getting closed down for the press. I just stopped. I just went blank. I was listening to her, but I understand what she was saying. Why is school gonna close down? What threats? Who threatened the school?